Let's bring the meeting to order. Connie, is there any public comment? I didn't see any.
No, sir, there is no public comment today.
Okay. Then we'll go next to the declaration of conflict of interest. If you can, just please reach out to Connie and Lori so they can take note.
I'll just run through it if I can.
That'd be great, Lori.
Rolinda and Kevin are always omitted from TWC action, having to do specifically with the board or the grant. It's Rolinda and Kevin. And Rebecca for anything having to do with child care group. And for Dr. May, anything to do with Dallas College. And I guess now it is, let's see, also, good morning, Ken. Okay, who did I leave out? I left out somebody. Oh, Dan Mitchkey for anything having to do with DISD. Now,
Anybody?
yeah.
Think we got everybody?
Don't
All
see
right.
anybody raising a hand. I think we're good.
Not a whole lot from a chairman's comment standpoint. I know it's been an eventful summer for sure, even though we only met 2 months ago. Like Lori said earlier, this last it seems like a lot longer than that we got together, and obviously there's a lot of moving parts going on today. But thank you all. Welcome to the August meeting. I would like to, although Lori did do a brief introduction, Miguel Solis, a new board of director for us. Miguel, would you like to say some more about yourself? Tell us a little bit about you. And
yeah, just that I really have operated in the space of education for roughly the past 12 years in Dallas. I was on the Dallas School Board for about 7 years, and since then have been doing work primarily with the Commit Partnership, but have met many people that I can see on this call in a bunch of different capacities, including on a bunch of boards that I serve on. And just looking forward to the work and honored to be a part of such a great group. So thanks for the invitation.
well, welcome aboard. And certainly, Rebecca, thank you for the lead. However that may have happened and at whatever time. Thank you very much for joining us. Lori, do you have anything to add on that before we?
No, sir, I'm just tickled. We will be in full compliance on members again before the end of September. The mayor yesterday signed off on a new appointee from the Health and Human Service Commission. Our lovely friend retired at a very young age, if y'all recall. Connie, the name of the new person, I apologize.
Her name is Tara Collier.
Dallas resident and a longtime employee of Health and Human Services. So we're very happy to have her, and she should be at our next meeting.
So we'll be full at the September meeting.
Yes, but September 30, the clock ticks again, and I believe the judge will have finished his appointments, but the mayor is still lacking, particularly replacing Holly. And
Yeah.
we've asked him to please get us another representative from Beck or another construction interest, because that is so timely. Construction is a huge issue for us. So anybody talking to the mayor, put in a good word for us, please. We need those appointments.
Definitely. All right, we can move on. We do have a busy schedule today, so I'll try to keep it going. We're going to have some discussion on a few items and some votes, so we'll keep it moving as quickly as we can. On the consent agenda, if you've reviewed your minutes, do I have a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second?
Michelle Thomas seconds.
Thanks, Michelle. And all in favor, go ahead and show hands since we're on Zoom. Sometimes the chat board doesn't work necessarily, so show hands if we're all for. And Laurie, just let me know when you're.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Any opposed? And are there any abstentions? All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to means, ends, expectations.
This morning, Rowena Ho, our senior accountant, will kick us off. As I mentioned, Ashley is dropping the triplets off at school today in Mansfield. Rowena, glad to have you with us this morning.
Good morning. I'm Rowena Ho, Accounting Manager for the board. Ashley will be joining us a little later in the meeting, so I have the pleasure of going over the detailed expenditure report with you beginning on page 13 this month. So Mario, will you please show us page 13? We have highlighted the WIOA Youth, Adult, and Dislocated Worker grants for you this month. Those grants in the middle of the page began July 1st, 2020. So we are halfway through those 2-year grants. In June, you approved adding some money to Child Care Group's contract from these funds. Demetria will shed some more light later in the meeting. However, due to a rule change from the state after that board meeting, we will actually deobligate this amount from Child Care Group's contract. The WIOA grants at the bottom of the page begin July 1st, 2021. Laurie will be discussing these new grants with you further. We do not have a program spotlight to share this month, as we will be spotlighting all of our books later in the meeting when Kevin Smith from Crow presents our annual audit. Unless you have any questions, I will turn things over to Richard to discuss performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ro.
Good morning, and I'm Richard Perez, Research Manager for the board. And in every board packet, we include an MPR, and that means monthly performance report. And this is like a performance report card from the Texas Workforce Commission. So there's 3 grades for this MPR. It's plus P, which is doing excellent, MP, meeting performance, and minus P, not meeting performance. The June MPR is the most recent available, and there are 5 measures not meeting in this MPR. And all of the measures that are not meeting are based on employment earnings outcomes from the wage system. 4 of the performance measures they're based on customers' employment and wages in the second quarter after exit. And the time period is July 2019 through June 2020. So the pandemic definitely had an impact on 4 of those. And those are the adult QT, entered employment, dislocated worker Q2 entered employment, youth, quarter 2 median earnings, and CT participants Q2 entered employment. And what CT means is basically all the participants in all of the programs. The one that's a little different is the adult quarter 4 entered employment, which is the calendar year for 2019. So that's like a retention measure. If it looks for employment in the 4th quarter to see if the participant is still employed. It doesn't have to be the same employer, but it does have to look for earnings. So I do want to point out a few real bright spots after talking about some of the measures we're not doing well, and that is claimant reemployment within 10 weeks, and it's at the bottom of the page. The state recently revised this target just yesterday. So we're meeting at 161% opposed to the 130% that's shown. All 3 Metroplex boards, Tarrant County and North Central, are in the top 3 in the state. And I think that says a lot for all the work our regional partners have done with connecting job seekers to open positions. And on the next page, there is another measure I wanted to talk about, and that's employers receiving workforce assistance. that is a measure that targets what the workforce boards do for employers, what kind of services we provide, and if we're on target with the state's measure. And we are doing well, and it takes into account job postings and job fairs and other employer services. So before I go into the economic snapshot, I wanted to ask if there's any questions.
Just a shout out, Richard, to Child Care Group. They have done a phenomenal job. We don't talk about them because they're never missing, but the state corrected all records. They're at 100+%, knocking it out of the park every day for our kids and our families. Truly deserve our appreciation. They do an amazing job, hard times or not. So thank you, Tori and the group.
All right. So Mario, if you could go to the economic snapshot. I'm just going to go over the next 2 pages. The unemployment rate, it's up slightly from May. And I want to say this has, there's always seasonality in the May, June. The numbers, it has to do with students off for the summer and then going back to work. So that isn't completely surprising. The next 2 numbers at the top, those are active UI claimants for 2 time periods. One is for the entire time period from March through June 26th, 2021. And the other number is from June 27th, 2021 through the first week of August for claims. And we just wanted to put that in to show the distinct difference. Let's see. I also wanted to point out the number that returned to work from all of the claims. Just over 240,000 of the UI claimants that did file have returned to work. And the next graphic with the bar graph, just a comparison with some of the other large counties throughout the state to see how their active claims look compared to Dallas. And then looking at some of the active claimants by educational attainment. And the bottom 2 have to do with the claimants that return to work, what industry. And then the one on the right is claimants that return to work by age range.
Just a quick minute, Richard. The light colored blue in the bar graphs are those people that return to work. So we're looking at a very large portion of the 25 to 34-year-olds going back, not so much of the plus 65. And we do hear from a lot of people who they're leaving their work and they're worried and they don't know that they can make ends meet. We'll see more about that in AARP and difficulty there. But the other thing is to look at the trades that have called people back. We're still lagging in food service dramatically for food service, even though it's a high return rate. They are struggling to keep going. Manufacturing is doing well, but they did through the whole pandemic. I just wanted to make the point that those graphs are very telling about where we should focus a lot of our efforts. Of course, young adults always, but we do see that there perhaps is a new group of entrepreneurs and people over a certain age who will need our assistance. Thanks.
And Mario, if you could go to the next page. So the top left bar graph, or excuse me, the graph, that is taken from the employment numbers that the TWC produces. And the 1,324,000 is the February 2020 number, right before the pandemic started. And our most recent figure for June is 1,295,149. And we put that in there just to show how close we are to being back to our previous employment level. I think that's almost 98% of where we were. So just to show the reemployment rate, we also took a look at the different kinds of positions that are currently open and what they pay. And so the infographic on the top right, that shows of all the positions open in work in Texas in the last 30 days, the majority of them pay approximately 25 to 30,000, and then it sort of tapers off, and then it starts picking up again for jobs that pay more than 70,000. So it's sort of like an hourglass shape, if you can think. A lot of jobs that pay maybe not that great. In the middle, it sort of tapers off, and then it expands again. The jobs that are paying 70 plus in this are mostly IT jobs, a lot of software developers, cybersecurity, things that are IT related. And then the bottom two are just different types of job openings by industries. And the bottom one is on the right is just the average weekly wages for Dallas County compared to Texas. And these are based on real wages in the system. And the Dallas Workforce Board has always been one of the highest boards for weekly wages in the state. So before I go on to the next page, if anybody has any questions.
Richard, thank you for this. This is great information. I know it's a little bit of a backward look, but I wonder if there's anything you could say about, we keep hearing, certainly in the news, about shortages in healthcare staff. If there's something in here that indicates that or concerns, because I'm not seeing it in this graph so much.
There is a lot of healthcare positions. The ones that we get, Parkland does post RN positions. They always have a constant need for RNs, and I want to say that's a huge need across the entire state of Texas. The ones we get from various healthcare organizations are medical assistants, maybe medical navigators, phlebotomists. They're sort of in the middle rung of positions, and those are pretty much across the board, whether they're big hospitals or small clinics, pharmacy techs, phlebotomists, things like that. And it is a huge number. In the industry chart,
it's 18%, Richard, on your industry chart, healthcare practitioners, but also it falls into the hourglass. It's either a low pay or a high pay with high skills, Susan. Unfortunately, we've never had a successful train them up. We tried DFW Hospital Council one time with an ESL project to bring in, of course, foreign nurses doing the English skills and getting them through the credential. A lot of money, a lot of time, and I think we successfully got one through. This is years ago. But we've got to find a remedy. I was talking to Jared and Elizabeth yesterday at the chamber. They have our healthcare cluster sector, and we're going to be working with them to fortify that sector and that strategy work. Healthcare is huge. We have a new player coming to town. I met with them through Ryan Trimble. They are called Village MD, and they will be the medical clinic inside Walgreens. They have over 70 of them in the Houston market. They are coming to the Dallas market before the close of this calendar. Once again, needing nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, 2 doctors per spot. And they're planning to open 30 or 40 immediately. We will be working with them, but to again, the hourglass, it's going to be on the low end, the receptionist, somebody to help people get in the clinic. And then that high end, finding the high skilled medical professional is going to become, well, it is already, it's a crisis. I started, nursing was my first choice in a career, crazy me. And now looking back, my friends have all started retiring at 60 something. It's time to leave that profession. It's grueling at this point. That's a huge number of people leaving the profession. It's time, and we do not have them in the queue to replace, very much like teachers. Sorry, Richard, but that's a
No
touchy
problem.
spot with me right now.
Thank you.
Is there any other
Richard,
questions?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead. Richard, quick question for you. This is a kind of a follow-up to Susan's question, and that is, can you look into the future and give us your crystal ball about the impact of the Great Resignation and what impact that might have on unemployment claims in the future?
I'll jump in, Ken. Most of those people are opting for gig work, self-employment, or jobs to work from home if they reemploy. And we're seeing a weird trend. People who were entrepreneurs are not finding their way back into the market. And had it not been for the special benefits coming from Department of Labor, they would have not been covered by UI in most cases. But entrepreneurs did receive the $600 a week because they had a wage. So I think what we're going to see, unless something, catastrophic again, and there's some coverage addressed, we're going to have a whole lot of 1099 people out here. People who are doing their own thing, flipping from one to another. Sadly, we are losing an accountant right now who's moving on to a better situation for himself. We hired him during the pandemic. He's leaving during the pandemic. I'm not sure it affects unemployment benefits so much as it is going to affect employers who can't re-engage those workers to a real job. I mean, the traditional job, not a real job, but a traditional job.
Great. And then one last question. What do we attribute all of the precipitous drop in unemployment claims post June 27th on the elimination of the federal supplement, or is it a combination of that and the improved economy?
It looks like, Ken, they started going back to work really when the announcement was made in May. We started seeing the peel off. I asked Richard to run these numbers like 5 times to try to address when did we lose the last group. And it looks like when it got to June 27th, we only peeled off about 30,000, Richard.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around right there.
We wanted to know exactly who that group was, who was still hanging on at the end. Now, not to say that in that last 5 weeks, many left, and that reemployment number kept escalating. So it could be 2. It was summer. We were all feeling very energized by COVID steps. We thought we were on the way back. And I think a lot of employers re-engaged their workers. So, sorry, Richard, anything else on that? But I know we beat those numbers to death.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
No, all right. Well, Mario, could you go to the next page? And I just have one more thing. And we just wanted to highlight a Texas Workforce Commission initiative, the Metrics online learning platform. They made it available to all job seekers. There was no eligibility or anything like that. Anybody looking for work could sign up for online learning platform. And in Dallas County, there were 7,130 unduplicated users. A lot of them just got a log on and didn't really do anything else with it. But there were 2,200 that did sign up for some courses and did log in some serious hours. So we just wanted to show the different types of learning pathways they took. And then on the right, we just wanted a closer look at some of the individual courses that were the most popular. The one general at the top covers things like time management and other things like that. So it's sort of a catch-all. But we just wanted to highlight and show who took advantage of the online learning platform.
Just an add-on to that, we are working with Cicero, who was hired by, I guess, the Bloomberg money through the city of Dallas and Dallas College. So we meet consistently with the mayor's committee. There's a dozen of us around the table talking about what else is needed in the city of Dallas. And one of the questions they posed to me was, well, we probably need an online learning platform. And I'm like, we've got online learning platforms everywhere. What we need is better strategies for online learning engagement. So you can clearly see here, the state offered this to every person on unemployment. So in Dallas County, over that time was over 300,000, 7,000 signed on and only 2,200 took advantage. Free training on your own, no real pressure. So we really do believe that if you tie the training to an existing job, it has a much better potential for success, that the employer motivates the person to continue training and to perform and to get a credential. So when we've worked with Retail Pays, Lynn's big Walmart project, which is coming to a close in December, and Paths, which is the second phase of that, we're learning all the time what it takes to get engagement. The ISD has been up against that on all fronts. It's not just the connectivity, it's the mind. It's whether or not people will set their course for an outcome of that training or simply dabble in it like they're shopping on Amazon. But online activity it's a curse and a blessing, shall we say. We will keep moving toward it, not hoping to invest in anymore. We're kicking off ours with EdCast. That is working. It's how then do you motivate the learner to become more successful in online virtual learning? And I think this report says a lot. Thanks, Richard.
Oh, no problem. And that's all I have. So I can hand it over for the Finance Committee report, unless it was going to go into Oversight and Contracts.
No, I think we go into the Finance Committee and pick that up, if that's okay. I think we have all the partners on board. Carter's here. Ashley is here. There she is. And I believe I saw Michelle Buss since the beginning, and Kevin Smith. Kevin's with us. So Carter or Bill, if you would like to turn it over to them, we'll skip over the Oversight and Contracts and pick that back up after it's done. You're on mute, Bill.
I got dogs in the room, so I'm trying to protect you. Carter, do you want to go ahead?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last Wednesday, your Finance Committee met to review the findings of the audit. If you're new to the board, you will see that there is a lot of money flowing through this organization. So having an annual audit and a audit partner that is engaged is extremely important. And even more important is that after the audit, that you get what's called an unqualified opinion. And I will not, delay in reporting that we have a clean audit this year. We're very excited to report that. Some that have been on the board know that there was a finding last year. It was not a major finding. There was an issue regarding revenue recognition. And so it was very important for us to have a clean audit this year, and we can report that. There were no deficiencies or material weaknesses. The Finance Committee questioned the auditors and had a healthy discussion. It is Crow as our audit partners, and they have been with us for a while. So I think that's also important to point out, that there's consistency in the practices and the procedures and what they're reviewing. So I'm very pleased, and I would be remiss if I did not speak to the impact of COVID on the organization, and just how difficult it is to go about the work, as we all know. And so I want to really pat Ashley and her team on the back for the hard work this year, the difficult work, and especially coming out with a very clean audit. So I'll turn it over to Ashley at this point, but couldn't be prouder of the work that they've done. And for our board, it's important that we go through this process and that we look at everything and we examine it. And, so for me to turn it over to her in clean shape is a wonderful place to be. So Ashley, welcome back from dropping the kids off.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And, thank you, Carter, for those kind words. It's really all about the great team that you guys have allowed us to hire. And you heard from Rowena this morning. And Lori listed all the great people we have working for us in her email to you this past week. They just help us follow what we've set in place, what Mike set as a legacy for us, and keep thinking up ways for continuous improvement. So I just thank you for allowing me to work with them, and we're very happy to turn things over to Kevin and present our audit to you all.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I was prepared to talk about how engaged your finance committee was and the robustness of the discussion, but based upon Carter's presentation to you guys, he hit every point that I intended to make. So we can definitely be short. But I think first and foremost, a couple things to point out. Audits like this don't happen every time or overnight. It's really about tone at the top, which really starts with this board, as well as the finance committee, and then the C-level executives, as well as the accounting and finance department. You guys have built an incredible team from top to bottom. The commitment to excellence is clearly there. I'd point out a couple quick things as well. Last year, we told you that we performed our audit in a remote environment. This was the second year we did it. Now, the difference, I think, really has to do with the fact that all 12 months of transactions, or the vast majority of the 12 months of transactions that are embedded within these financial statements were accounted for and managed in a remote environment. And we found no deficiencies or exceptions within our test work. Our auditing standards require us, no matter how many years we've been with you guys, to kind of wipe the slate clean, perform a robust risk assessment, and perform our audits with intense skepticism. And your team passed with flying colors. One final kind of comment to make, as Carter alluded to, don't bury the headline, an unmodified opinion was received. That is really in three different areas. We audit the financial statements. We perform an audits over your federal grants in accordance with Uniform Grants Management Standards. So a very robust set of compliance procedures promulgated by the United States government, as well as your Texas state grants, which are conducted in an audit in accordance with the governor's grant standards. In each of those cases, unmodified opinions, no exceptions noted, no deficiencies noted in the internal control structure. Again, the last thing I'd say is your risk committee really does a great job in meeting with us prior to beginning our engagement, understanding our plan, our scope, et cetera, and then meeting with us at the conclusion and asking hard, frank questions and demanding the right answers. So I think they're fulfilling their fiduciary oversight as a subcommittee of the board, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have related to the conduct of the audit.
Are there any questions?
I was just going to jump in on behind Kevin's real quick. I also want to thank the rest of the team. As he mentioned, this is not only a financial, but a compliance audit. We contract, we procure, we control property and inventory. So kudos to the whole team. They're really hardworking. And if we get any part of that wrong, it affects that audit. It comes out on this. Also, and Kevin and Michelle will tell you, we always tell too much. And that was last year's problem. We overly reported income, never underreporting, folks. We simply were accounting for those private for grants as fast as we could. And the rules changed and we can't report them now until we spend them or earn them. So our bad, but it was not a key issue in terms of lack of transparency. It was too much transparency. That's kind of who we are. Michelle will tell you. We bring it up even if it's not ready, but I want the board to always be comfortable that we are going to tell you everything that's in our books. It may not fit in the current year or they may change the rules, but everything that's in our books is available to you anytime. Please know you are our board of directors, our elected officials. Our books are transparent. I just want to clear that up.
I want to chime in on that before, if there's any other questions. I want to, as Carter alluded to, I don't know if he threw the number out there, but our budget's, between 130, $140 million. So a lot of money goes through this program or this institution through the many programs we have. And I want to thank Carter from our board side. I want to thank Carter and Dan and Jason for their work on it, and certainly Kevin and Michelle for their years of sticking with us and going through this process annually. Thank you all for the effort you've done, and certainly for Laura, you and the entire staff, Ashley, Rowena, et cetera. Great job. And, again, like you said, don't bury the headline. This is a great report and a tremendous job.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say this is the point where everyone takes a deep breath and says hallelujah and claps for Ashley and her team.
Hallelujah.
Seriously, questions though. We're available to answer questions. That's why Kevin and Michelle got up so early. Crow doesn't start work at 7:30. They just don't shut down like normal people. They go through the night.
And if you have a question or don't feel comfortable asking a question, certainly feel free offline to reach out and we'll get an answer to that question, whatever it may be.
And Ashley, what is our budget going to be with the new, childcare is going up from 85 to 115, plus today we're going to talk about a new $55 million grant. We just got the first installment. So I think we all have to look at that and start talking about a board that is pulling through more like 160 to 175,000 million. Sorry, million. It's huge, guys. It's huge.
I think just to move along, Ashley, I think you were going to speak to the banking relationship.
Sure. It was just last week, right before our finance committee meeting, that Comerica, who has been our banker since the 90s, called me to let me know that they are exiting the municipality's business, which we fit under because of our all of our grants that are coming from federal money, and we're having to obtain collateralization on those grants. So since we have that need and we qualify as part of their municipalities division, we won't be able to use Comerica anymore as of the end of this year. So we have some time, but we will need to go ahead and procure a new banking institution primarily for that collateralization need. We just can't stay with Comerica because of the amount of money that we have running through our bank accounts at any time. So staff would tremendously value any input that the board may have as we're going forward and looking to procure this new banking relationship.
Ashley and I were looking, just for reference, we liked the mid-sized bank. It was right there across the, from the park. It also provided us with a lot of personal touch, someone that we could call at a moment's notice. We usually, now the federal government and state requires us to turn our money within a 3-day clock. So the collateralization we're talking about is not in excess of 9 million on a daily. But since FDIC cuts off far before that, it does require a lot of movement. In the past, we've had, maybe the Plano teachers retirement system is collateralizing, but we do have to have something backing us. So if anyone is aware of mid-sized to large that can handle that capacity, I just thought it'd be better to have a frame of reference. It's a lot of money through, but 9 million on a daily potential, and having to get collateral for that. Happy to hear your own stories about a good relationship with your banks. And everything is, of course, electronic. They've been amazing for us. Also, it will affect Child Care Group, we believe. Child Care Group has also been using Comerica, Ashley?
They have been, but they only use Comerica for their operations. For the big money that flows through to for direct care, for the child care centers that we're paying few $1 million every other week to them to disperse, they're actually using a different bank. So I don't know that they're going to be affected by this.
Good. Some security is a good idea.
Any suggestions you all may have, go ahead and reach out to Lori. Let her know. And Lori, I don't know if there's any kind of something you can put in writing, just a brief description of what we're looking for from a bank side. That may open the doors to some and close doors on others if you have something quick.
We'll do it. Ashley and I'll put together something that's like a shopping statement, what we're having to do and what it requires, and walk it around the institutions that are available to us. A lot of people are going to say, no, not that.
Yeah.
With Comerica leaving the business, I'm sure the cost of collateralization, that transaction is expensive. And you can't pay enough fees in some of the markets. So we'll be interested. We have to find this. I mean, we do have insurance, and that's the next topic. Ashley will go over what we finalized with our risk management and all of our different policies. But this is a changing of the guard. So this will be interesting. I think we went to Comerica shortly after 96. And that's a long banking relationship.
Yeah, it is.
Ashley, do you want to talk about the insurance real quick? And then we'll let Carter move with the action item.
Sure. The long and short of the insurance is that we're trying to remain consistent with the carriers that we've had in the recent years. So the only thing we're changing has to do with our cybersecurity insurance, and that's in an effort to remain consistent. Prices have increased, as you may have guessed or already know, due to all of the teleworking in the last year and a half. And in an effort to mitigate that additional cost, we have decided to just increase our deductible from $25,000 to $50,000, but maintain our current insurance carrier, which is Beasley, and they're very top of the line leader in the industry. So it's right under $150,000 total in premiums for all of the liability coverage, for our equipment and for our officers and directors and cyber, all inclusive.
And we'll update that for all of you in a hard copy that will go into your board briefing book, perhaps your orientation manual from the beginning. I know many of you like to look at that and make sure that you can tell whomever you work for how we are covering you as a board member. Just to touch on the insurance conversation briefly, tech is huge, as we all know. I learned, not to be public, and I'm not going to say who, but 4 boards have been affected by a childcare provider. We're talking about somebody like Childcare Group that runs a large system having been hit with ransomware. And believe that agency worked it all out. They did have insurance, they did pay the ransom, and they are trying to get their records back. But the ripple effect of one of these can be catastrophic. So the governor ordered that there be at least one full review of all state agencies for tech. And we finally got around to us. I think it was ordered last session, so 19. So we began this process sort of January or December, every board sitting down for multiple hours with AT&T inspectors. And we have our report. It arrived in June. The report cannot be shared with you publicly. It cannot be part of a public meeting. John Dickey will have to be in the room, and it will be a private conversation. I think virtually is good. We can show it on the screen, make no copies, and explain we're not in bad shape. But having that insurance is critical to showing that we take this very seriously and that we understand how vulnerable any system is today. So I'll work with John, and we will notify you in advance of a session where we're just meeting with the attorney. I hope most members can be there. We are seeing other boards. We have to write a corrective report for anything we're lacking. Right now, we're in the middle of procuring our technology assistance. We do not staff for technology. It's too robust. So we have always worked with QNet. I say always, for the last 15 years or so. QNet has been our provider. They also manage Dallas County, a minority-owned firm, very, very competent. They stood with us through the whole process. They understand we were not pressure testing our system. There were things like that were in the report that we will talk about, how we overcome those for the future and what systems we set in place. So it was time to procure technology. We are out open for bids right now. We hope to have all of that to you at the September meeting. And between now and September, I'd like to pull you together for a brief private meeting over this actual report and some of the things we hope to accomplish. John, do you want to speak to that just briefly? I know you cautioned me that report cannot become public.
Yeah, so we're under a confidentiality standard set of language and provisions that prevent us from having a briefing in public. So there are a couple of things in the report, some observations from a legal point of view and a risk point of view that that Lori and I want to pass along that are basically legal advice, straight up legal advice. And to get there, you have to have some of the background from how the report was built, what was done, and what the results look like. So the entire discussion can be covered under an exception to the Open Meetings Act, we believe. So I think we need to have some sort of meeting to maintain the confidentiality of it. And my apologies, I think it would be very useful to pass out the report ahead of time, but based on the specific language from the state in conducting the report and delivering it, we're not allowed to disseminate copies of it. So it's going to have to be in a closed session meeting.
Thank you, John. That report was 11 hours of conversation with AT&T. They were great, though, I have to say. That was the right company to hire. They did a good job for all the boards across the state, and we feel pretty good about our prospects. So,
Great.
Carter, I give it back to you. I've been all over the map here, but I think we have covered everything. Now we're down to the action of the Finance Committee.
Yeah, Ashley, do you recall the net increase in premium for the insurance?
In total, I think it was about 40,000
Okay.
over all areas.
So, so just to summarize, the Finance Committee has met. We oversaw the insurance policies and made sure that from a risk standpoint, the board is covered. And so it's our recommendation to the board that we accept the audit and accept the risk policies that we have in place.
Appreciate it, Carter. We'll take it to a vote. All in favor of the recommendation to accept the Finance Committee's
Need a motion
approval?
in a second.
Well, I'm getting ready to make that motion.
Okay.
Carter, did Carter make the motion? Can he do that?
Yes, sir, he can. He did not. Go ahead, Carter.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we
Thank you,
accept
Carter.
the audit and the insurance policies.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor? Show of hands. Lori, Connie, let me know when we're good.
We're getting to page 2. Hold on a second. There's a bunch of us in the room today.
Great, great.
Yes, sir, we are good. Yes.
Okay. All opposed, same sign. And are there any abstentions?
Okay, some folks left their yes hands up and I'm counting them as no's.
Want to do it one more time?
No, sir, I think we're fine. They're coming down. And are there any abstentions? I hate to call that out, but I don't see any hands up for abstention. I just hate to miss those. All right. I think we're good.
The motion passes. Thank you again, Carter and your team, and Ashley also. Great job. And thank you again, Kevin and Michelle. Do you want to go back to the oversight and contracts?
Yes, sir.
Demetra?
Good morning.
You're up.
All right, good morning. I'm Demetria Robinson, Executive Vice President, and I will be presenting to you today the contracts and amendments items on pages 25 and 26. First, we are requesting to amend Child Care Group's Child Care Assistance Services existing contract for the management and operations of the Child Care Subsidy Program as follows: to add the new COVID-19 Service Industry Recovery Child Care Program. This program will assist low-wage workers in TWC specified service industries, the arts, entertainment and recreation, accommodation and food services, and retail trade. We received just over $55 million allocated to our board area, and we just received 10% of that $55 million just this last week in our current grant. The remaining funds will be awarded in October of this year. With this funding, TWC has assigned our initial performance target to serve 5,792 additional children through this initiative. In addition,
if you would, how many people do we serve right now and a wait list? We're at what right now?
I think we have a little bit over 2,000 on the wait list now. And we have over 11,000, well, I think it's up to 14,000 in care.
So but this would be in addition to those numbers. I just want to bring that to the board's attention. This is like no other project we've ever done. Susan understands. I mean, up to 19,000 kids for 1 year. That could be staggering. So hence my praise of Child Care Group. Just want Tori to keep breathing. Okay, sorry, Dee.
No, it's okay. This is big. This is one of those things that's just been added that's different and least expected, but a good thing, a good thing. In addition, last month we were anticipating trying to assist disconnected youth and dislocated workers in returning to work by offering childcare assistance to eligible participants in our Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program during the summer months. We received your approval to move forward with that with giving Child Care Group WIOA funding. However, shortly after that approval, TWC passed a waiver that allows unemployment individuals to enroll in the Child Care Subsidy Program. The job seekers who are actively looking for work are now eligible for up to 3 months of child care assistance supported by our child care regular formula dollars without a copay until they secure employment. So now we're asking to reduce the WIA funding from Child Care Group that we previously awarded by $767,700. We're not taking away the service. The service is still available, but now we're able to pay through our regular formula dollars instead of WIA funding. So that's the action for Child Care Group.
You need a motion, correct?
I do.
So moved.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Susan Hoff.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, we
Now
have a
second.
Thank you, Ellen. All in favor of the board recommendation or the recommendation to the board to amend the child care and deobligate the WIOA funds as presented? Show of hands in favor.
We have you and Rebecca, I'm noticing the abstention. Okay.
All right. All opposed, same sign. And any abstentions?
Susie, can you clarify your vote for me?
4.
No, Susie Batty, sorry. Sorry, I forgot we have 2 Susans now. I'll get with her. I see her mic's open, but I can't hear her. I think okay, I think I know. Thank you, Susie. Got it.
Did the motion pass?
Yes, sir. Very much so.
Drum roll, the motion passed. All right.
I have one more item.
You bet.
And this is youth system services contracts. We have 3 youth contractors that provide these services in our Dallas County area. That includes Equus Workforce Solutions, Dallas College, and Gulf Coast Trade Center. Our contracts has operated on the fiscal year cycle, but the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funding, our grant is provided on a program year, July to June basis. We are requesting that the Youth System Services programs be returned to contracts commensurate with the grant life to avoid any lapse in performance and funding. The 2019 through 21 grant ended June 30th. So we're requesting a deobligation of unspent funds at June 30 as presented below in the column labeled FY 2021, deobligate unspent youth funds at June 30th, 2021. And to reset the youth contracts to align with the grant program year effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30, 2022. At the proposed PY 21-22 contract budget amounts listed below in the last column of the chart. The amounts are reflective of the prior 12 months spending. The deobligation amounts are pretty high, ending at June 30th, but we're resetting the contracts at July 1st.
Are there any questions?
It's been a bad year for our youth programs. Performance is off. And by that, I don't mean the chart Richard talks about, but we're not engaging or enrolling youth. So we want to completely reboot. And I'll talk about that in my report. But one of the things we think is more encouraging is June to July, maybe give a ramp up in the June months, not in the fall. We did lapse funds. As I pointed out last month, we would. That's catastrophic. We've never done that before, but we have another nearly $5 million added to our plate July 1. So the money continues to flow in WIOA. We have plenty of resource right now to do good things, but I need contractors to get motivated to do better things and to provide better content. Youth seem to not want what we're offering. So this is an attempt to right-size this program and perhaps use some of the funding to engage new players. I think it's time for a refresh.
Do I have a motion to approve the staff recommendation to deobligate the funds as listed on page 25? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks, Rebecca. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ken. All in favor, show sign of hands on the screen.
Okay.
All opposed, same sign.
And do I see any hands? Okay.
Are there any abstentions?
Going to show Dr. May. I don't see him though. Is he still with us? Oh, yes, Dr. May abstained. Sorry.
Okay. The motion passes. Thank you, Demetria.
Thank you.
I believe, Connie, have you next on the list?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everybody. I'm Connie Rash, Senior Vice President and Board Secretary, and I'm presenting Oversight Policy and Procurement this morning. Beginning on page 26 of the board packet, looking at the transfer designation request, in June, we received board approval to transfer dislocated worker funds to adult, totaling $600,000. This was to provide both unemployed opportunities for the adult population. Upon further review with our fiscal team and our contractor, we've kind of discovered we do not need to transfer this $600,000 and request to revert the transaction to accommodate customer needs. So this is reverting back to dislocated worker funds. So the recommendation is board authorization to reverse the $600,000 transfer designation request to accommodate customer needs.
Bonnie, I think you can put your three together for one action.
Okay, certainly.
Okay.
That might speed it along. The next item is procurement of copiers. We released a request for quotations and that was issued July 15th, amended on July 30th with a due date of August 10th. We received 4 proposals: Canon Solutions America, Novatech, Toshiba Business Solutions, and Xerox Business Solutions. So Mario, if you could put up the handout, we have a handout for the recommendation. You have it, Mario? Okay, thank you. Okay, so upon evaluation, we're recommending Xerox Business Solutions Southwest for leasing copiers, printers, and maintenance services. They had the highest scoring proposal. And the recommendation is board authorization to lease copiers, printers, and maintenance services with the highest scoring proposal, Xerox Business Solutions Southwest, for an amount not to exceed $370,000 for 36 months, pending successful negotiations. And we did have an option in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, board authorization to negotiate with the second scoring proposal, Novatech Inc. So that's our recommendation for the quotation for copiers.
So this is 3 years for all workforce offices,
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay. All right, you want to do your third?
Yes, sir. The next item is policy. And the Texas Workforce Commission added a new WD letter. It's WD letter 1321. And this, Demetria sort of talked about it a little bit in her section. It provides flexibility to cover childcare expenses while individuals are engaging in job search. The majority of the WD letter has no local flexibility, and will adopt that into local policy. The current rule indicates that if the parent is seeking employment or engaging in job search and hasn't found employment after 3 months, then childcare will end. Boards can decide to extend an initial job search for a maximum of 30 calendar days beyond the initial 3 months, and this will assist with continuity of care and completion of eligibility paperwork. So the recommendation is board authorization to adopt the policy following state guidance with the addition of 30 days. And this is for eligibility in accordance with current policy to the initial 3 months.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Are there any questions on
Connie,
any of the 3
do we
recommendations?
have a large percent? Well, is it a low percent that exceeds the 90 days?
Ellen, I asked the same thing, and what I heard was that it's been in our system for all other childcare, so it's sort of a standard operating procedure that at the end of the 90 months, we take that extra 30, give them a break. They got to get the paperwork in, and you know, I like for y'all to take advantage of anything the state leaves to local flexibility. There wasn't that much.
Sounds good.
Very fair, so we should take advantage of it. That's true. Thank you, Ellen. Are there any other questions? Well, what we'll do, we'll address all 3 with one vote. So as written on page 26 of the board packet, I need a motion to accept the staff recommendations for all 3 policies listed: the transfer designation request, the procurement of copiers, and the revised policy for the WD letter 1321. Do I have a motion to approve?
Bill, I recommend that we approve.
Thank you, Ellen.
Recommendation.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Lewis.
Thank you, Lewis. All in favor, show of hands.
Hang on. Just a minute.
Are we holding them high enough?
Yes, sir. We're good. Hang on. Yes, we're well over majority. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any opposed? For the record, I need to ask that, I guess.
Yes, sir, you do. All votes should be recorded.
Right.
Nope. I see none.
Any abstentions? Belinda? Okay.
Relinda and Kevin both, or just, yes, Relinda and Kevin both?
All right. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
All right, Lori.
I will round it up, guys, and I will try to get us done quickly. You know, I always say that. Okay, page
She
20.
always says that.
Page 27, we have a quality assurance report, just briefly. The Texas Workforce Commission is with us as we sit here. They're reviewing a National Dislocated Worker grant, and they're giving us a headache, but that's just how that goes. And we are still battling a corrective action effort for data entry compliance and timeliness from Equus. And we're on the third round of that, and frankly, my patience is done. So hopefully we can wrap that up and have a decent report this week from the monitors. I think it will all be about data entry and timeliness of reports, but we will keep working on that. Page 28 is me? Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Forward the computer. You know, all these tools on the desk, and it gets crazy. I'm with you. Real estate broker. We had a long, hard bid process. Jones Lang LaSalle came back to the table after many years of absence. Jones Lang LaSalle was Roger Staubach's corporation. Staubach did our last lease at One Main Place. We went from them to CBRE. I mean, we used the best in town. And this year, both bid on our business, and both did a very good job of supporting it was a hairline difference. If you'll, Mario, put up my slide real quick. Here's where I landed, guys. And Carter will laugh because he knows it was a very hard decision. I'm opting that we divide our portfolio at this time. Jones Lang LaSalle to identify and negotiate new leases immediately, with the Garland Workforce Center being just definitely a priority. The state wants to sell, auction that building February of 22. And we'd like to give them an opportunity to prove that they really understand and want our business. With CBRE, I've got urgent need that we extend the City Square lease. City Square is a 96-month lease, which no one expected. It usually is a 120. And they're looking at it, and so are we, as to when is it actually due? And I'm expecting a call back from them today. We also have a month-to-month at Preston at Alpha, and that's starting to heat up. The CBRE knows our business. They know these leases. They know what's wrong with the leases. And I would like to maintain that relationship with those landlords through CBRE. But I'd also like to give Jones Lang LaSalle a chance at the business. Both did an excellent effort of saying they really want to work for us. They want to do nonprofit work. They want to help us find our place in communities. As you know, we are not a big get for any company. Our best lease is Ross Tower, but most of the time we are dealing with strip centers, old buildings, old communities. So nobody's making a fortune off of our leases, believe me. If the brokers are amenable to this arrangement, we'll review the situation at the end of a year. We offered a proposal for 1 year plus, you could extend for up to 4. At this time, I'd just like to see maybe we get a better edge in having 2 brokers at the table. I see Ken's hand up.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry, Ken.
Sorry.
Questions on this? Carter, I didn't run it by you. I took Dan's comment to heart when we met and interviewed these brokers. He said it's an administrative decision. And I know that to be true. And I've got to feel comfortable in what we do with this. This 10-year leases, guys, they're going to long outlast me. But this board has to make good on 10-year leases. And
First of all, I don't know if they're going to outlast you or not. I don't know if that's possible, but just from my standpoint, and Carter, I'd love to, you're in the business and I'd love to hear your comments, but I think it's good to have 2. I think we need to have a relationship with our brokers, whoever they may be, although we can't allow complacency to set in. So we have to keep them honest and make sure they're acting on our best interest. But having 2 and 2 powerhouses like CBRE and JLL, I think having them both is good. So I like that myself. Carter?
Yeah, well, we did discuss this during the Finance Committee meeting, and we participated in the discussion with the 2 broker firms. Bill, you're absolutely right. These are the premier organizations in Dallas. So no concerns whatsoever by going with either one. Laurie, I do like the strategy always of tiptoeing in the water with your broker. I believe, I've been working with real estate brokers for a very long time, and I believe that it's a personal relationship, that you want someone that's acting on your behalf, that understands your needs and represents what you want versus what a landlord wants for you. And that's a very critical point. We are not the prettiest client. Our spaces, if you've been to any of the centers, are not in Class A, AAA buildings with shiny glass. They're workforce centers in Garland and Pleasant Grove and some tough areas. And our brokers have to be very creative when finding locations. I've read thousands of leases, and every one of them that I've read said, you can't be a government entity, and we don't want things like work centers in our buildings. So there's exclusions. So it's very tough work. And I applaud you, Laurie, for trying to, let's test the waters with JLL, and because they're going to have a tough task finding space for us. I would also encourage you, like all contracts with brokers, to put in an out clause with notice that you can get out of it if they don't perform. And so that would be my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Carter. Anybody else? Laurie, do we need a motion, or do you want to move on to the next?
I will need a motion, but I think I can do all of mine at one.
Okay.
So moving into the next one, we have been at Old Arcadia Park Elementary School, a building that it belongs to DISD. They've been trying to figure out what to do with it. We've gotten notice they'll give us one more year in that building for a slight increase, $5,700 a year. It's still less than $5 a square foot. It includes Wi-Fi and janitorial. It's a really good location in Cockrell Hill for us to have AEL, ESL classes and a special events center. As you can imagine, right now I'm negotiating with Gillies to maybe we're going to do an in-person Red, White, and U job fair in November, and maybe in November it's not going to be in person. So between all of the things we have to do in person versus virtual, I like having this separate space. It has tons of large auditorium space, cafeteria space, things like that, and yet classrooms. So we could hold a job fair at the drop of a hat. It is not a big expense. The annual is $119,700. That is just a good thing for us to do. It helps the district as well. So we're opting to renew that lease for 1 year at those rates stated. Hopefully you'll agree with that. So far we got the brokers, we've got the lease, to move into that space. Then I've got a couple of things. Real sad to lose the Garland facility. I wish we knew more about it in terms of when it will be auctioned and who would be the best buyer. I want the community to embrace that building. My goal would be, I sure wish we could sell it to somebody who would lease it back to us. If JLL can pull that rabbit out of their hat, we'll have a deal.
Yeah.
No moving costs, no issues. We just stay put. We've been in that center since, before my career. So I think it goes back to 1971. And it's a lovely facility. It's fully paid for. It costs nothing to run it. And replacing that is going to be a hardship with the budget. But we will do it. We always have the money for our centers. Those are our connection to people. Technology, TWC, and our technology security, I've pretty much touched on that. Our virtual presence in youth, and I've touched on that, but let me just explain. We've purchased all rights to the online identity of Opportunity Youth Dallas. We're going to effect a landing page for youth programs that will highlight not only the programs this board funds, but also what we vet to be an exemplary opportunity for young adults. So it's our goal to put more activity in front of 18 to 24-year-olds. We have got to gain their engagement. They are very critical to building our workforce. And if we don't get them involved in training and work, we're going to struggle for 30 years with this crowd not going into work and understanding the purpose and earnings. So I think it's important that we reboot that whole system. Hope you agree. Opportunity Youth Dallas, new identity, and we want all kinds of brands. So we want Equus to be Equus Youth Programs, whatever they want to call themselves. Dallas College Youth Programs, whatever they want to call their project. And then hopefully we'll put a little more money out. Ashley and I are still right sizing what would be left in the budget, but it could be as much as another $3 million to offer out to the community. We need a variety. We're definitely not getting it right, and appreciate input, believe me. The last thing on my list is to adopt federal holidays. Of course, all of us know Juneteenth is now a new federal holiday. We scrubbed our list. We have never celebrated Veterans Day as a system. Previously, we actually worked on Veterans Day. We opened the Omni Hotel on Veterans Day. We had done about 300 of their 600 workers in 2011. So we always have kind of a feature activity on Veterans Day, but we'd like to recognize it as an official holiday on the list if the board approves. Those are my action items, Bill. If we could cover those, and then I'll just give a little briefing on our trials and tribulations of COVID.
Okay. As stated on page 28 and 29, what Laurie just discussed, do I have a motion to approve the recommendations as stated?
It will be the broker, the lease for Old Arcadia Park, and the adoption of the revised federal holiday schedule.
It's Stephanie, so moved.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
It's Ellen, I second.
Thank you, Ellen. All in favor, show of hands.
You guys are so good. Hold on one second. Thank you, Joe. Got it. Okay. Yes, we're good.
Okay. All against, same sign, or opposed, sorry.
I count none.
Okay. And are there any abstentions?
This is Rolinda. I think I need to abstain from the leasing agent portion, but I'm okay to vote yes for the other two.
So noted, Rolinda. Thank you. Laurie, based on your previous comment, it looks like all three motions recommendations pass. So.
Yes, sir. Kevin, did you want to record abstention on the leasing broker as well?
I'll probably just go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I know both of you are very mindful of those things. Very briefly, you need to know what we're up against in our centers. Equus has adopted great protocols to help us stay open. In the last 10 days, we've closed and reopened 5 centers. The cases are, this is what the district is going to be up to, the school district. This is very difficult to deal with people in person. We have a case here and a case there, and somebody's children coming home with the virus. We close, we clean, so that's a cost. We bring in the spray unit. We were trying to procure our own sprayers and have it done by the center staff. We're still going to look at that, but basically somebody flipped a switch around July 26th and our world just changed. I was going to in-person events. We were talking about getting back to normal. Something flipped. We had some angry employees at the contractor level. There is no good way to work in person in general public services. You can wear a mask. People may or may not choose to wear a mask. It's very difficult for us. The cost of cleaning is a concern, but only if this continues to be an everyday event. We have not had an outbreak per se. Someone is actually, one of the staff from the contractors wrote to a religious organization, said, please feed this to the media. We're being forced, etc. That's not true. And the media was kind. Fox took my email to heart. We told them exactly what we're doing. If there is a case, if you have been exposed for more than 15 minutes in a 5-foot radius, you're advised. Most of the time, because our centers are small, we have closed the center for the day, kept it closed till it could be cleaned, kept the staff out for 5 days now, because that's about how fast the new hybrid comes back. Reopen. So again, 5 of our 8 centers in less than 10 days closed and reopened. We just, well, not reopened on the 5th one. That was Opportunity Center yesterday. People do the darndest things. If you're testing positive, you don't come into the office to tell people you tested positive to pick up your stuff. You know, there are things that happen. Like this is not normal times. I just need you to know we're doing the best we can do. If you hear otherwise, please call me. All of the staff in the field is contractor staff, and yet this is really big for us right now. I would be remiss. I meant to touch at the top of the moment, and I cannot go to my meeting without saying we did have a promotion on our team during COVID. Stephen Bridges, who has been phenomenal in this space. He has done a lot with Jobs Now. He is serving employers. He has a lot to do with those employer service numbers. Stephen has been promoted to our industry communications manager. He will continue in his role as heading up all external activity about employer services, but he will also take on the role of managing the education support staff that we're hiring to work directly with the ISDs. And that, Mr. Chair, congratulations to Stephen. He greatly deserves this recognition. He's done a great job for us. And he is known far and wide as the Facebook Live champion in terms of what we've been able to do. I
think he's become a celebrity.
Yes, he has. He has. Anything that I can do for you, please let me know. And if you have any questions about my comments and my reports, glad to answer them.
Laura, do we want to talk about the September meeting?
Yes, sir. Again, something that may be outside the control of this board. Sadly, during the session, and the first session, we're not talking about the additional sessions, but during the legislative session, the governor removed all of the accommodations that had been made during COVID regarding public meetings, and we are a public meeting. So we are now faced with a flip of the switch on September 1 that says that because we are a single county jurisdiction, we would not be able to hold virtual or all virtual meetings. We could hold a hybrid as long as a majority of the board and the key staff, myself and Connie, officers of the board, would convene in physical presence. I'm a little worried about that. We have a facility. The chamber is not yet opening that space again, and I don't blame them, but the building gave us access to the boardroom in the basement, you know, that wonderful, beautiful area that you walk to Dakota's and you walk to the parking lot. It is redone. It's lovely. It doesn't hold that many people, but it would hold 13 to 14 members of board and staff so that everyone else could remain virtual. I don't know how that's going to work. We have had phenomenal attendance in virtual world. I have had no complaints once we mastered how to connect. We've had no complaints about access. In fact, most people, I get thank yous from people who say, gosh, I never made one of your board meetings, but now I can do it virtually and it's exciting information. It's good stuff. So we can't do it ourselves. I say we can't. John and I will work on at least appealing to the Secretary of State. Workforce boards are and aren't. We're different. We exist in a space like no other. We're quasi-governmental. In our case, we're 501c3 nonprofit. Our work is transparent to the community. We are always available. I do not see that we should meet personally in September. Would like to maybe request, and John and I can talk offline, request permission to have some exception to the rule. Joe, and not to put you on the spot, but are your people able to meet? Are you going to have a problem being a single county jurisdiction to conduct public meetings now in person? Do you have any insight on this?
We fall under the same issue that's there. So we've got a virtual meeting tomorrow, which will, and then we have another probably on the 26th just to deal with some issues. And as effective September 1, we'll move to a hybrid format, which, as you described, would require a quorum be present, would require that I'm present there, and that others coming in must be on screen at the time that they vote or act on anything. Person not on screen is not going to be counted as a positive vote. So I think that's going to probably require some technology adaptation and some behavior adaptation on that, since obviously not everyone has the type of bandwidth and other access when they're doing that. And we're seeing pockets of COVID pop up in very different patterns than we saw in the earlier wave. So it's a really different battle as we look at it, but it's going to affect obviously board meetings and other situations as well.
I appreciate that. I wish Ruth were still Secretary of State. I have her on speed dial, but I'm not familiar with the current secretary. I know John can make those calls for us. We can put in an application and say, do we really have to do this? Could you, appeal to the governor to extend those conditions through at least the fall, maybe through the rest of 21 for counties that are in red. That would be Harris, Dallas, a couple of others. Most of the state is not on fire. Our numbers are outrageous. I don't know if y'all are watching. They don't release them every day, but they are scary numbers. Thankfully, deaths are not equal to what they were. So we will keep watch. We'll do what we can. For October, we would normally have our awards ceremony. So I have a lease pending right now, if we want to use it, to be at Gilley's on the third Wednesday in October. The 13 of us who can be, that would be my condition. There is a Lone Star room. It's a lovely room. It holds about 250 people standing. We would arrange tables for maximum space and see if we could do something akin to our award ceremony, although I did enjoy the virtual awards last year. But we are trying to make accommodation for what is to come. I am concerned, though, that we will not be able to conduct business with a valid quorum September and October just because of the conditions, and I want nobody put at risk. I'm very careful for all of these year and a half, and I don't intend to stop being careful, especially where everyone is concerned.
Are there any questions or comments, or really it's kind of a wait and see as we go forward the next few weeks? And certainly any updates, Lori, that you get, when you and John are out, maybe, obviously some may be made public by the governor, but certainly keep us posted on what things look like as we get into September.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other comments? Lori, is there any other business? Did we had a lot on the agenda today, but I think we got through it relatively quick.
We did.
To try to minimize September.
And on the dot. Woo!
So if there is no other comments or any questions, thank you all again as we get into the fall, a busy fall session. So for you football fans out there, congratulations. Hopefully we'll see some good football, and in September, look forward to seeing you guys, whether it's virtual or in person. Look forward to it. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great
Thanks, Bill.
meeting.
Thank you for your
Bill.
leadership, Bill.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed.
Thank you, Ellen. See ya.